Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Boise Airport Commission meeting on November 5th. I'd ask for roll call, please.
You're both here.
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
Mr. Rapids.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. General. Mr. Vasconcelos.
Here.
Commissioner Westerberg.
Here.
And then Morales.
Here. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you to anyone who's joined us online. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Hopefully, we will review the minutes. Is there any discussion or changes?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
having read the minutes, I move for their approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay. Been a slight change this morning. We will not be addressing agenda item A, Airport Director's Report at this time, because the speaker's been delayed. We'll take it up a little later in this meeting after agenda item C, the Airport Staff Report. So we will move to item B on the agenda, Commissioner's Comments. Maybe I can start with you, Russ.
Say that again?
Can I start with you, Russ? Commissioner's Comments?
Oh, you bet. Quite frankly, I'd like to extend my appreciation and pleasure for the successful re-election of Commissioners Halliburton and Nash for the city of Boise. And I was also pleased to see the city of Boise's open space levy plan. And with that, I don't have a lot else to add other than I probably not going to be sharing travel and share with you until the airport on the FAA has the Air Force and the ground control towers fully manned.
Thank you. Commissioner Vasconcelos.
80% was pretty impressive on that. First of all, happy to hear about the food drive for the workers that are not getting paid right now. And in fact, I left what I was going to bring today sitting on top of our other car, so that wasn't good. Have to try harder again. Meanwhile, this last month, my wife and I flew to San Jose on Southwest and then back on Alaska, and everything went smoothly. So can't complain. That's about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Brigadier General Smith.
Thanks. I do feel compelled to speak to the shutdown for just a moment, the government shutdown, and I would echo your comments. So appreciative of the TSA people that come to work every day, our ATC, our traffic controllers who continue to come to work despite not being paid. I flew to Fargo for work last week, and remarkably, it was fairly smooth. But you can feel the strain underlying everything that's going on. And on a good day, I think being someone in TSA is a rough day. Not every traveler is a beautiful human when they're in travel mode. So I think we should talk about it, and I think we should all. The more aware we are of the impacts of the shutdown, I think the better informed we are to take action and speak to our political leaders about the faces and the human beings that are affected. For your Idaho National Guard, in past shutdowns, the way we have responded typically is it's not a great way to describe your people, but we identify essential personnel to keep the lights on and be the Idaho Guard that you expect us to be. Not only in responding to crisis in the state, but as always, being ready to defend the homeland and do our federal mission. So in the past, we've really narrowed it down to our active guard to keep the lights on and hold down the force while our government gets back in action. And this year, given the background of events and I think, tensions in federal workforce, we have chosen to identify everyone in the Idaho National Guard as essential. And what we believe is that the way the Guard is structured, we're already min-manned. We're about 25 to 30% full-time, and that is our essential workforce. And our message to not only our nation's leaders, but to our nation is that we're already cut to the bone. That's about as streamlined as you can be. And to say that anyone that wears the uniform and serves day to day in our National Guard is non-essential is not the message that we're willing to send, and it's not consistent with what's required of our guardsmen day to day. So for all of you in the community, along with TSA and ATC, your National Guardsmen that come to work every day full time, they are working without paychecks. So our active guard members, they have not missed a paycheck yet. They've gotten them at the last minute, but there's most certainly some strain. But our federal technician force missed, we started the shutdown with a half paycheck, and now they've gone without a full paycheck, and we're on our third round. So anything you can do to be an active citizen and engage our political leaders on the real impacts of what's going on, I think is our civic obligation.
Thank you. Thank you, General Smith. Commissioner Hughes?
Good morning. Well, I did have some travels in October. We had a delayed honeymoon, so we went to Europe, and I will say it went very smoothly, both directions. We had a little bit of tight connections in a few cities, and our luggage was almost waiting for us when we got here. So incredible on how quick everything was, and it was really fun to go through it's always fun to go through the Boise airport, but to see all like new changes, and I can't wait to hear that's report today.
Commissioner Carlson?
Thank you. Thank you, General, for those comments. It's most appreciated, the insights. Thank you. I also traveled in October. I down for a work event in Scottsdale. Very smooth travel. That was early in the month. Last week through San Diego on Delta, and going in 10 days ago, no issues, but coming out, half the TSA lines were unmanned. So the lines, we weren't Houston, which we all saw probably in the news, was crazy. Houston is not a terribly wonderfully efficient airport to fly through anyway with TSA, but with half the lines shut down in San Diego, the lines through it was very long and very tedious. And so I have pre-check and clear because I travel a lot. My husband does not. So I'm through and waiting, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. It was very long. And it brings right up into your face the impact of what happens when our government chooses to put politics above their mission. So I was very happy to be home, and like you with Delta, before we got to baggage claim, our baggage was all rolling around right there. I was very impressed. So it was good to be home, and I'm not traveling again until January, so I'm looking forward to that as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Spencer Radloff?
Other than appreciation towards those coming to work and not getting paid, I don't have much to add.
Thank you. Councilman?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I want to just express my condolences as we mourn the community members that were lost in Louisville, Kentucky yesterday. Tragic cargo plane crash, and extend gratitude to first responders and on the community that are supporting in that response and in recovery. It makes me really grateful for our airport team here that trains and prepares to be able to respond if such a thing was to happen here. God willing, it wouldn't. But that hit so close to home, and I'm sure there are many on the airport team that are considering that and want to express our love and support for you at this time. I had intended to make these additional comments prior to this tragedy, but I think it frames it in a little bit new light. But had the opportunity to join Councilmember Corliss on October 2nd to meet with a neighborhood group that came and spoke to us during public comments a couple meetings ago. Frank Bold was here today, was one of those members. And just had a really good discussion with them about some of the concerns that they had in our neighborhood across I-84, and really kind of identifying that those come down to takeoffs that are banking lower over the neighborhood than like a traditional commercial flight would, where they go straight up and get to some elevation before they start to turn. Notably, those being tankers, backcountry flight operators that are a little bit more used to probably those low altitude climbs. And so Councilmember Corliss and I do have an intention to be able to work through staff to connect with our federal partners to talk about our growing need as an urban airport, to ensuring that these aircraft are taking off as safely as possible for our neighborhoods. Obviously, during the shutdown, I didn't feel that it was an appropriate time to connect on that with the limited bandwidth and all that they're doing above and beyond what they should be asked to do. But once hopefully we see resolution soon and are able to help be that voice to try to get on the same page in regards to that. So I really want to just extend my appreciation to those community members who have a lot of data, have tracked a lot of, had a lot of good examples and concerns that I think if any of us live there would have as well. Ensuring that our aircraft are as safe as possible for them and for our neighbors. And then just to kind of speak to that shutdown piece, really appreciate the Brigadier General's comments. Thank you for coming with those today. And I would echo that, when we as regular neighbors, Boiseans, our day to day, we have certain circles of influence or levels of control. And when we talk about a lot of these federal things, it can feel like, well, what kind of impact can we make? And I think it's important to focus on controlling what you can control. And I appreciate his request to be an active citizen and engaging with our representatives. And given our representatives where they stand on kind of this piece, I think that there should be active consideration into doing things like ending the filibuster to be able to get the government moving again if they want to pass the priorities that they want to pass, and not include support for being able to continue to fund healthcare subsidies so millions of Americans can have access to healthcare. So I would also extend that ability to focus on those things that we can do with our direct representatives and control what we can control. Obviously, we don't have the on and off switch to be able to do it, or we would have flipped it already. But want to thank all of our federal employees that are working so hard, and I hope that this ends soon.
Thank you, Councilman, and congratulations to you. Thank you. Your victory last time. Resounding victory. The only comment I have, I'm one of 5 children of 2 low-level federal workers and career federal workers, and they. I remember when we were younger, there were a number of federal shutdowns like this, but none to this duration. And even though they were shorter, they were impactful in our household. So I echo everyone's sentiments here about wishing for a quick resolution to this. We're going to stick to the agenda as the change that I mentioned before. I'd like to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the airport staff report. And I'd invite Beth Sumner to come forward. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning. Thank you for patience to be able to share a little bit of an update on where we're at with our concourse development and terminal improvements. So I've got a number of slides, a lot of pictures to kind of give us a sense of where the design is headed. So we'll just start to kind of march through it. So, first picture, again, taking a combination of some imagery that exists from what we currently have, and then some 3-dimensional modeling that our architect, Fentress architect, they were able to do. So we'll talk a little bit, give you some words, and then we'll go through some pictures, talk a little bit about kind of the phasing and the timeline that we're looking at, and then open opportunity to feedback. If not here, I certainly welcome it via email. If we want to have a separate discussion, I welcome that as well. All right, so words first. Right now we received the first level of drawings to review. So what that puts us at is basically at a 15% completion. So the team is processing about 500 pages of documents that were provided to make sure that the design is kind of headed in the direction that we think it should be. There's a lot of complications because we need to keep our airport operational while we're also doing major construction, and where that's becoming a challenge is in the baggage handling system area. We have some vehicle service routes. So there's a lot of complicating factors when it comes to how we take deliveries, how do we get rid of trash. So those areas are starting to become very present for us about how are we going to navigate staying operational while also opening up spaces to try to continue construction. So a couple of the enabling projects. So I think we've talked already a little bit about our baggage handling systems at end of life. Happy to hear that you all got your bags in a very timely fashion. That I think is thanks to the team that we have that maintain it, and probably the workforce that also takes the bags from the aircraft to the delivery system. So, but it is time for us to replace the baggage handling system. We went through a little bit of an exploration with some more updated systems and decided that for this size airport, for the type of operations and the number of flights that we have here, a traditional system makes sense for us. There's a new system that's kind of coming online, but we decided that we think it's appropriate for us to explore the traditional system. Right now we're doing an effort to try to validate. We had Landrum and Brown do, basically they figure out what the forecast is going to be in 20 years. And then from that, we determine, how much space do we need to set aside for makeup units and all these other functions that equate to the baggage handling system. So we have an airline technical rep that really is supposed to be the voice for the airlines. Took a look at what we did programming wise, and they had some different opinions and views. So now we're kind of working through that, which is a really good and very healthy thing. It's good to have someone kind of checking your data. So that's kind of the process that's happening right now. And then the central utility plant has been a really also very interesting exploration opportunity where we don't have capacity in our current systems to be able to bring Concourse A online. So we know that we need more chillers, boilers, electrical gear, but where it goes is kind of the sticking point of what we're trying to solve. So a lot of airports are going to central utility plants. It's more ideal from a maintenance standpoint, consolidating everything. Now for us, it's figuring out where's the right place to put that. They're not free. So it's kind of spending on some of the bones versus the fun stuff like building a concourse. So we're trying to navigate a lot of the funding piece from that side of things. We do have a requirement, any new construction that we do, City of Boise, we need to meet Boise Green Code, which is very similar to International Green Code. There are some alternatives that can bring in LEED. So we're exploring all of that as well, and we'll keep you apprised of sort of where that discussion takes us with the authority having jurisdiction. So the exciting parts, the pictures that we want to look at have to do with Concourse A. So right now, we're looking at the budget. Mass timber is something that's been kind of exciting. If you've traveled through PDX, you've probably seen it there. If you go to the arena at University of Idaho, I think we just toured yesterday afternoon, Boise State. The construction management department has a new building that's being constructed on, is it Beacon Street, I think? So you can drive by that and see it. If you have any question about what does mass timber look like, it's really lovely. It's very architecturally beautiful in my opinion, but also structurally very sound. So kind of get like good bang for your buck there. So we're looking at that, hold room sizes. So that's, the space that you wait for your flight. And we've even got a couple of photos to show you, or renderings to show you some concepts with external terraces. I know that's, Denver, if you've flown through there, you've seen that. So we're also looking at that as a concept for Boise as well. And then we've got some terminal improvements. We'll walk through those. Also, those are kind of like as funding is available. There's some really exciting ideas. So getting to a little more of the details on the terminal improvements. We know that as you exit the secure area, it's a little messy there. There's a lot of activity happening. People are waiting to meet or greet someone they're welcoming home. People are trying to get down to baggage handling. So we have a lot of sort of cross traffic that we want to sort out. We also know the elevators are across the rotunda. So sometimes people don't make the best decision. They just see the escalators and the stairs and they think, well, that's my option. So those are some of the problems we're trying to solve with some of these terminal improvement concepts. Accessibility, that's also a big emphasis item for us. And then we always want to be ready for more growth. You know, as we watch, what you'll see from the director's report later, what does our growth look like, you know, in the last month, in the last year. So wanting to be ready for that. So this is, you'll see the cutout on the right. So didn't want to get into too much of the architectural drawings, but you can see the existing rotunda. So the concept is that we would add to the east of where the current exit lane is. So we would actually add on to our building and then move the exit lane completely out of the existing space. One of the things that we got feedback on is that we will eventually need to expand our security checkpoints. Not that we necessarily need any more lanes, but we do need to increase some of the depth with them and spread it out, and then it'll give us more queuing space. So to help solve that problem, we're going to take over all of the existing space that we have, which means we'll need to add on to be able to have an exit lane. So this is as you've come out of the exit lane and you're looking off to the northeast, you can see that gray door, that would be the elevator. So now the choice is obvious. If I need an elevator, it's there. If not, I can keep kind of making the bend and then come down the escalators. And the other thing that we really wanted to try to solve is, or take advantage of, is we have a beautiful rotunda and it hardly ever gets used. So this is space we've already built. How can we activate it? How can we energize it a little bit more? So that's some of the renderings that you'll see here. So now you can see that we're headed down, either taking the stairs or 2 escalators downstairs. As you look through there, you can see that's out to the existing rotunda space. So that's kind of spatially where we are in this rendering, and just kind of making our way down. Of course, you're going to see a lot of trees. We're the city of trees, so that's kind of what the architects kind of run with that concept. You can see our existing, rotunda floor there, and then we'll look at a little bit more of some of the exciting spaces. So this is kind of turning back and looking. Stairs, escalator, those elevators in the back corner on the right-hand side. Opportunity potentially for art, for advertising. Just I've got some good options. But just a very well-lit open space. And then as we come through there, you can see our existing rotunda, now looking at having a couple of different seating type options on the left, also having some vending available, kind of making our way around this space. So this is looking back towards the escalators and the stairs, so looking to the east, having a spot for people to sit and wait. Just kind of opening up the space a little bit more. What would be behind this is where the rental car space used to be. We'll be finishing that project up in the next year, so we'll be able to move them to the customer service building. So that's kind of what opens the space up for us. And then adding some family restrooms as well. These are adjacent to the existing restrooms that are down on the ground floor. So just giving us a lot more flexibility with the space, making it a lot more suitable for the meter greeter type of activity that if you've been here, we have a lot of people that wait here to welcome home troops, people from missions, so it gets used a lot. So we want to have a space that will really support that. And then it's just kind of an overall, if you were coming in from curbside, looking at the rotunda, looking out at the waiting space, the bathrooms. It's just another rendering. All right, so we'll move on to Concourse A. So originally, we've had some kind of ebb and flow with the number of gates. What we're designing is up to 10 gates. We're trying to balance the budget and how we'll be able to afford all of these things. Originally we didn't know that we were going to have to rebuild the baggage handling system to do a utility plant. So this is encroaching on some of the funds that we have available. One of the pieces is that north apron is relatively expensive as well. So a concept that we're working through is the idea of maybe not opening the north gate, so open the southern 7 gates that would go along the south and then the west side of the concourse. And then another phase would be to open up those north gates and then build out that apron. So as we're designing Concourse A, what we're looking at is having appropriate space for concessions, making sure restrooms, we know that's just something that we have a shortage on right now with Concourse B. Restrooms is something that airports get a lot of feedback on, so we want to make sure we do it right. We've had a lot of some interaction with the mayor about access to the outside, maximizing your views in daylight. So really trying to bring a lot of that in with our own staff, making sure we have plenty of storage, planning spaces for custodial staff to keep their equipment and materials that they need. And then there's an opportunity for us to kind of think about additional amenities that we may want to see here. certainly want to give you all an opportunity to provide. You share places that you travel. I'm sure you've seen things, had ideas, and maybe thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if we had that at the airport? So we'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So this is looking from the west, kind of to the northeast. You'll see the roof line. The architectural kind of inspiration was the foothill, so that's where you get kind of those peaks. And I'll show you in other renderings what it really is going to allow a lot more daylight into the space without bringing the glare that could come in with the sun, kind of on depending the time of year. One thing you might also notice is it's a lot of glass. We call that the curtain wall. So that is another way that we can really bring in a lot of light to the space. You maybe through your travels, you've been to airports where you've experienced that like floor to ceiling glass view. And so we know that that's something that's relatively common. So this is, if you envision, you've gone through TSA, you're kind of in the food court space, and you've probably seen that little cutout past the restrooms. So that would be turning right. That's our entry into Concourse A. So we've got a nice long walkway to get ourselves there, and exploring the idea of using this as an art gallery. You know, we discussed that with the mayor on Monday, and she was really keen on that idea of using that space. Gets really nice light from the south, and it's really a transitional space. You can see at the very end is kind of where it will open up into the concourse. There's a lot happening underneath this, and this is a way for us to get passengers without necessarily seeing all the activity and everything that's happening to make the airport operate underneath it. So as we make our way to the end of that walkway, it really opens up kind of to the south, you know, highlighting those double doors at the end. That's the first terrace. It's on the north side. And then there's a concessions, and then it kind of starts to open up to the south. So we'll just take ourselves into the concession space or the terrace space. So it's covered, which is helpful. Any sort of, you know, precipitation, it's protected. We also have to have the glass needs to go up to a certain level for security reasons, but it still kind of gives that fresh air, that open space sentiment. And then there's a similar one on the southeast corner of Concourse A, and it's connected to the concessions that you can see right there. So having two spaces that we can try to take advantage of. Airport views, hopefully also see some foothill views with those exterior terraces. Now this is coming into the concourse a little bit, and we're in the southeast corner of it and then looking to the northwest. And this is those peaks that I showed you of the roof line. This is where it really brings in that light. So those are called clear stories. So it's providing that light from the north side. We know in the summertime, that might be the one time where we get a little bit of sunshine in there, but for a lot of the year, the sun really stays kind of towards the south of us and really opens it up. And you're seeing a lot of that mass timber elements that we've talked about. The seating that's shown in the hold rooms right now, it's just the standard seating. We're going to explore other options as the design progresses, knowing that you've probably seen it in other airports as well. Having multiple different seating options, I think, is something that passengers really start to expect now. And pointing out the width of the concourse. So what we have in Concourse B, I believe, is about 80 foot. So it feels kind of narrow, plus we've got the lower ceilings. So this even just, there's about 25 additional feet kind of from a width standpoint, but then also opening up that ceiling just gives it that really open space feeling to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, those seats that you just showed, are there gonna be lots of places to plug things in?
Yes, that is the intention. I know Sean and his team did a test run and got a lot of feedback about cup holders and charging stations as being part of the seating. And then this is progressing about halfway down the concourse, looking back to the east. And so it's just kind of still seeing sort of that clear story, letting that light in, that open circulation space, and then having the seating, the hold rooms off to, you know, either side of that. All right, so just talk a little bit about schedule. So Concourse A, we're in design right now. It's going to take us about 21 months to get the design complete. Then we go into a permitting process that should start in about July of 27. And I should say that this schedule came from our construction manager. And so there's still a lot of massaging, let's say, to do with the schedule. But I I don't want to go through showing you everything and then it's like, well, when are we going to do this? So give you also a little bit of timeline information. They'll put it up for bid in the summer of 27. There's some long lead procurement items that we'll need to get underway, and then targeting that construction beginning of 2028. And then it's about a 2.5-year process to build it. So that does take us out to August of 2030, which is a little bit longer than what we were hoping. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really talk through, is there any way for us to bring that back? And there typically is. It's a matter of how much we want to pay. So these will be some of the challenges that I think as a project team will begin to solve. And then looking at some of the terminal improvements, as I mentioned, a lot of these we're looking at, they're really exciting. We're just gonna have to see how they can kind of fit within the budget, what we can afford. But have them, they've shown that they can, if money was no object, let's say, we could accomplish all of those terminal improvements and have them open and ready to go by the time the concourse is open in 2030. So, and we know that we need to get the baggage handling system up and operational and the central utility plant before we can open up Concourse A. So there's a lot of interdependencies within these projects. So I can open it up for feedback, questions.
I have several questions. Some of them are curiosity, so I can definitely take a conversation afterwards. Just briefly, I'm curious when you said there's the traditional technology for the baggage system and then the something new. Can you just can you give
Yes.
just the headline on
Yes.
what we're not doing?
So there's a couple of airports. San Francisco is the one that Sean and I were able to tour. They have an ICS, which is basically, think of these tubs that have an RFID and they have camera systems that will scan it. And so it's a very, they say that 99% of all bags, but I think it's legitimately 100%. They just can't say 100%. So they don't lose bags. I think this system makes a lot of sense for airports that are that size and that have much longer runs out to the baggage systems. We're pretty consolidated here. And when the baggage team was looking at it, it was going to end up taking up more space. And one of the things that we're kind of working through is where we plan on putting the baggage handling system is impacting gate B14. It's a pretty significant issue for the airlines. And so any other additional footprint would potentially affect more gates. And so we're trying to really minimize the amount of impact we're having on gates. So, and we had a lot of different experts look at it, not just like from our owner's rep team, the construction manager and the design team. And they were all pretty much aligned that they didn't think it made sense for us. It was going to cost a little bit more money too. So
you mentioned briefly, these are my words trying to reflect yours, but you mentioned there's an airline technical advisor that's partnered in reviewing the plans. Is that something you chose to do, or is that a requirement? I'm just curious because to me it's a good best practice to get your teammates on board early with big moves like this.
I would say I don't think we've used one before. I think this is the first time we've hired an airline technical rep. I think if you're going to do a program of this size, it's a good best practice to hire someone and especially since we have we don't have like a dominant airline per se. So it's really helpful that he's responsible for bringing the airline opinion to us. So we're not having to navigate all the different airlines.
Applaud that approach. Absolutely. I think, the last thing you want is drama when you're all in on a plan, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well played. I don't necessarily need this data. I'm curious though, to me, when I choose to travel, I pick connections that if I get stuck, it's a nice airport to hang out in. And I'm curious what the percentage of number of travelers connect
Yes.
in Boise, because a lot of your design is making this a nice place to be stuck.
Yes.
And do you know those numbers and how much that affects your design thoughts?
I think we're at about 3% right now, and I think the forecast is to go to 5%. of not of the connection. We're primarily an origination and destination airport, so O&D is how you hear us talk about ourselves. But I don't know if Director Hub has more insight into.
I mean, I get disappointed that I can't spend more time in this airport.
Just show up early.
I know. Maybe we'll take pressure off TSA. If we go.
I know everyone knows that TSA is a smooth experience.
My other comments are just reflections on on Concourse A. I love the idea of the timber. I have seen Portland. In fact, got a chance to go there after you mentioned yourself and your team going there. It's beautiful, and I think it does a great job of representing the community in the valley. The outside terraces in Denver are pretty sweet. To be able to go outside while you're traveling is a gift. And then I've seen some really creative use of the connector space where you have to walk down this path to get to the concourse. And it doesn't look like it's that long, but it's I've seen some really innovative ways to use that space to tell a story as you're walking by, either about Boise or the history of aviation or something like that. So I like the design. I like everything that you're showing so far. It really has a good Boise vibe. I hope the trees are real. Let birds into the terminal. Amazing. Really good, John. Thanks, Beth.
Mr. Chairman. Beth, you may have mentioned this, but I saw the cohesion of the timber with the rotunda. Is that going to be carried through? Is there a plan or a budget to carry it through the airport? So it looks all in sync, it's not like here's the new, here's the old, here's,
Yes. That is definitely a guiding principle that we have as a team, as we begin to explore what we're going to do with Concourse B. I think that's not part of the scope at this point, but that is very much an intention that we have, is to make sure that we have a seamless experience. It's that feeling of, you don't want an airline to be like, oh, we're in Concourse B, or a passenger, oh, we're in, want them to be excited about no matter where they're flying out of here in Boise.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none. Thank you.
One more slide, and that's just next step. So design should be complete by 2027 is the idea. Lots of stakeholder engagement. Like I've mentioned, we met with the mayor on Monday, sharing this information with you all, and then we were briefing the airlines this afternoon, actually. Next big step for us is trying to develop target projects. So some of those main areas that I talked about, it's incumbent upon the project team, specifically the owner side, to give the design and the construction firm, this is the target budget that we're working towards. But we didn't want to do it in a vacuum. We really wanted to get a little bit further along to get some concepts and ideas together. And then that will help inform our funding, which is a evolving process for us. All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, I see Director Huff has joined us. Director, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm going to go through the airport director's report. It's always dangerous to go after such a great presentation. So thank you, Beth, for leading us through that. It's really an exciting project that we're embarking on, and we will have more detail to come on that as we continue. So I will go through this relatively quickly. You talked about the federal shutdown in your comments. It has been just a huge credit to our staff here, who are very dedicated, loyal, hardworking, and who continue to show up at the Boise airport even though they're not being paid. They're not the only ones that are not being paid. I think we just see them most because we're here in the terminal, but TSA, air traffic control, we have partners at NIFC. We have members at the Guard who are not getting paid, who are federal technicians. I mean, it's very far reaching and the impact is huge. So we have undertaken a pretty substantial effort under the leadership of Jennifer from our marketing team, with some help from Shauna as well, to really recognize our employees who are showing up day in and day out with, providing them meals while they're here, showing them appreciation, but also now doing a food drive soliciting for gift cards. And we will be doing a drive-by drop-off donation this morning, immediately following this meeting, and that will continue. And then we will have the food box at each of the locations by the doors, the middle entryway and then the far east entryway, both upper and lower curb. We'll have boxes there for people to drop off donations, and then we'll provide them to employees here. So moving on, just to show the breadth of the different types of things that we're managing right now. One of the things that we're doing is a transformer replacement. This is essential. It's not exciting. It's perhaps even a little bit scary and nerve-wracking. There's probably been some sleepless nights. This project is being led by Brett on our team, but we're replacing all of the airports. We're replacing the main transformer, and we're actually running on generator power. So there was a lot of planning that went into testing generators, making sure that we would be ready. No good plan goes without any challenges. So there's been a couple of hiccups along the way, but they've been seamless to the passenger and mostly to the airline partners as well. So we're expecting this will be completed in mid-November. And then we spent a lot of time talking about what's happening at the terminal, but there's a lot of things that are happening on the airfield outside of the terminal. One of these is we entered into a lease agreement with Simplot to build a new hangar. They are making great progress. They are scheduling move-in for early December, which is ahead of schedule. And then their existing hangar will become available and will revert to the airport. So we are always working on improving our runways and infrastructure. We do have some closures. We did some substantial construction this summer. We reopened the runway on October 21. And now we've closed runway 10 right, 28 left for seal coating. Seal coating helps us to preserve the pavement and helps it to last longer, which is a maintenance best practice. And then 10 right, 28 left will be closed periodically, so we can continue to paint the pavement markings. They're very specific federal guidelines about paintings and markings on airfields, and we want to make sure that ours are compliant. A consolidated rental car facility, you don't realize how big it is until you drive up next to it or you see it from across the airfield. But this project is continually taking shape. We are working on some of the interior finishes now, like terrazzo lighting, and bathroom fixtures are being installed. The elevators have been installed, and the terminal connectors, mechanical and electrical has been completed. Then the rental cars will turn the building over to them so they can do their own improvements in their own rental areas. That includes not only the service facilities, but also the parking lots and parking areas where they'll install their signs and do some painting and stuff. So we'll turn it over to them, and then they'll have 6 months to finish out their improvements. And concessions updates. It sounds like many of you have traveled a bit. You've probably seen excuse me, the new concessions. Pizza Hut, Blue Sky Bagel, Protein Bar and Kitchen, and Capitol Public Market have all opened since our last airport commission. In the next week or so, we expect that Up and Away by Flying M will open, as well as the shops at Treasure Valley, which is the final retail location. And then under construction, we still have Bardenay, Starbucks, Wendy's, and Form and Function. But we are getting there. So we talked quite a bit about the concourse and the project, but I won't belabor this. But we do have our first set of cost estimates for the project, what we think that it will cost. We're within range, and so we're going to continue to refine that, determine what budget we have to put into the facility and the finishes on that. We're working on the schematic design. We just shared the renderings that you saw earlier, and now we are in the process of having our next workshop actually this week. So we're continuing to do that. The next steps, we'll have the 50% schematic design drawings by the end of the week, and we'll do the risk analysis workshop, which is where we analyze what we see as potential risks with the project. In Concourse A, apron phase 1A and 1B. Renee's been leading this project for us along with Marcus on the airfield team. We've opened a bunch of the taxiways, the connector taxiways, and then this inner apron will be used for overnight parking, which will allow us to have some additional parking spaces for aircraft, which is an area where we do not have enough capacity today. So probably not as exciting to look at concrete, but when you think about the work that goes into it, the technical aspects of it, it really is impressive. Managing the project, the phasing, the safety, all of the things that go into this project, and the end result is we'll have more parking spaces. That is exciting, and it will eventually tie in with Concourse A. So this is the very first step. So it is a cool picture. So we're also, as we're doing all these improvements, we're always keeping an eye to the future. Many of you serve on our master plan technical advisory committee. This project continues to move forward. The focus in October is inventorying our existing facilities and conditions, finalizing the aviation forecast, and we are beginning to work on the land use planning, which will look at zoning and land use around the airport. And again, just a reminder, this plan guides our development for the next 20 years. The last master plan is what recommended many of the improvements that we're doing today. I often like to joke that our 20-year master plan became our 5-year work plan. Probably heard that before, but it is true. It will guide our work going forward. We did have some exciting times here at the airport. We actually received 2 new aircraft rescue and firefighting trucks at the airport, and we had a push-in ceremony. There's a tradition there that I'm sure our fire team would be happy to share with you, but these trucks are intended to last 15 to 20 years. So for us to get 2 of them at the same time is a really significant event for us. And obviously we hope to never have to use them, but if we have to use them, we want to be ready and we want to make sure we have the right equipment here. So
Is anyone at the wheel of that truck that's being pushed?
yes. And we have some new employee news, so it's always exciting to share. We have a new hire. Seth is here, so I want to recognize Seth. He is a new landside senior project manager, so he is going to work on Kelly's team under Beth. As you may recall, we have hired and divided the team into landside and airside, just given the magnitude of the work that we're doing. Thank you, Seth. And he has joined us. He's done work at the San Diego airport, but most recently, I believe he came to us from ACHD. So excited to have him on the team and continue to build the team out so we can do these projects that we're working on. And equally exciting, and probably more exciting for Mary. Mary has been with us over 30 years. She's a custodial supervisor, and she's going to retire. So great, good for her. And then we were able to promote one of our employees, Brian Corbett. He's a maintenance mechanic lead. He's been part of our team since 2019, and it's always wonderful when we can see employees being promoted within our organization. And we did have Custodial Appreciation Day. I don't care how much thanks you give them, it's never enough. It's sort of like TSA today, working without being paid. You know, yes, we are paying our custodial team, but it is a very hard job. They work very hard. If you travel and you fly in here, if it's 11 o'clock at night, you see them working. They are cleaning carpets, wiping down windows. They're continuously working to make our airport, you know, clean and someplace where people want to stay. I won't read you all of the comments, but we did get lots of kudos for the airport team. And we did recognize them during Appreciation Day. And then we were sad that Boise State did not win, but we did host an event here. We had 2 airlines that added flights during this time for the game against Notre Dame. and our marketing team sees the opportunity to hand out Mad Dog maple bars. So it was a big hit in the terminal. I think it's leading into next year. We're really going to be focused on doing a number of surprise and delight things in recognition of our 100-year anniversary. And I think this was a good test case for that. In September, employments it slowed down a little bit. We're only up 3% in September. But it was still a pretty substantial year. It may be our highest September on record. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it must be. And then 2025 passengers are still trending up 6% compared to last year. So it's very likely that we will exceed that 5 million passenger number that we missed by about 8,000 passengers last year. And then as we look at our revenues and expenses, you'll notice that rideshare revenue, so that's Uber and Lyft, that continues to be up substantially. That's due to an increase in people using Uber and Lyft, but it's also due to an increase in the fee that we charge them. And then on the expense side, as you would expect, professional services is up a fair amount due to all of the work that we're doing, and the structural engineering is up due to some of the larger maintenance projects that we're doing with our plumbing and fountains. And then that was probably, and then the power, that increase you're seeing is because we actually received a credit last year for an energy efficiency project. So last year we received $200,000 in energy efficiency credits. Sadly, we did not receive another $200,000 again this year, but so that impacted that fee. But all in all, it's in line with where we would expect our revenues and expenses to be at this time of the year. And at that point, I will pause and be happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Questions or comments? Hearing none? Thank you, Director. Okay, the final item on the agenda is an opportunity for the general public to come forward, and I'd like to establish some boundaries, so if you'll allow me. General public questions and comments for the commission and airport staff are not to exceed 5 minutes per issue and meeting time constraints, and requests for final action may require deferral to meeting. So is there anyone present that would like to come forward and ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, is there anyone online that would like to do so? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman, I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Been moved. Is there a second?
So I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.